All glories to Mother Ratasha. All glories to the religion of love. All glory to them. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the Supreme Lord. O Lord God, please help us live out these teachings and be an example of love in the world. Jai. I just realized my mic was pointing the wrong direction just when I started praying. Okay, today we're going to start reading from the book Soul Food. It was on the 3rd day of the 9th month that in the presence of the spiritual master, I, Rajak Khan, some disciples, guests, and others around the world did celebrate the appearance day of the spiritual master. In the morning there had been devotional dance and music and readings from the holy books of the religion of love. From before dawn, Gauri and her team had been in the kitchen cooking, and now there was a sumptuous feast. There was a variety of soups, chilled, clear, and creamed, garden-fresh salads, baked bread, flatbreads, and muffins, delicate pastry shells stuffed with spiced vegetables, myriad green grains heaped up, creamy yogurts with slivered cucumber sprinkled with cumin powder, hearty lentil stews, multi-layered vegetable casseroles, and more and more and more, all made without meat, fish, or eggs. Amid murmurs of delight and delicious, one guest, a woman of wealth, with emerald clips in her auburn hair, exclaimed, "I have eaten in the finest restaurants around the world, and have in my own kitchens the best of cooks. Yet never have I tasted such wonderful food. It's, and she hesitated, searching the right word. It's like love." "Yes," said a disciple, "love is the secret ingredient," and then explained, "This food is called the mercy of God. It is prepared in silence, with only the holy names of God filling the minds of the cooks, prepared with great love for the pleasure of God, offered to God, and accepted by God. By this is the food sanctified, and those who partake purified." Then another guest asked, "In the religion of love, I see all to be vegetarian. What is the merit in this for a holy life?" And Hassan Ali answered, "In the religion of love, we do not only speak of love, but live love, acting with mercy, kindness, and compassion, that we might cause no unnecessary suffering." "I agree," said an ex-army officer and a follower of the religion of love. "Just last year I was taken on a tour of the different suppliers of food. I went out to sea on a fishing boat and saw the clubbing and gutting of still struggling fish, to a poultry farm where chickens were crammed into cages so small that to keep them from pecking each other to death they must be de-beaked on a hot knife machine that isn't always accurate, often slicing away the face as well as the beak. At a slaughterhouse I saw a cow put into a pen, turned upside down, her throat slit, and though she was not yet dead, skinned alive. Witnessing such cruelty, from that day to this I have been vegetarian, neither buying nor selling, neither eating, cooking, nor serving meat, fish, or eggs." "It is interesting," mused a guest newly arrived. "In my religion, we await the Messiah, and a tradition tells that in the time of the Messiah, all will be vegetarian." Then the wife of the army officer spoke, saying, "I also have become vegetarian, but not for the same reasons as my husband. It was when I learnt of the millions starving, and how meat-eating was a cause, and how hazardous it is to the environment, causing soil erosion, air pollution, forest destruction, water wastage, and more. Do you know, she said, if all the soybeans and grains fed to livestock in America alone were instead fed to people, 1.3 billion starving people could be fed. The land, food, and water that produces only 1 pound of beef, the same could feed 20 vegetarians. Knowing all this, I could no longer be part of millions starving and the planet being destroyed. I am a doctor, said another, and the medical profession is just now coming around to the understanding that a well-balanced vegetarian diet is by far the healthiest. Then a woman who had come for the first time said, hearing all this and eating this delicious and nutritious meal, I too have decided to become vegetarian. And a disciple, who well knew the woman, teased her with this riddle, saying, 3 polar bears were sitting on the ice. One bear decided to jump into the ocean. How many bears were left on the ice? And the woman, being quick to answer, 2. And the disciple, laughing, said, No, 3, for deciding to do and doing are not the same thing. And the woman had understanding and said, No, I really will become vegetarian. Okay, let's hear some commentary. It was on the 3rd day of the 9th month. So September 3rd is Mother Atasha's appearance day. And in spiritual life, devotees, disciples, they celebrate the appearance day of their spiritual master. And what is an appearance day? Well, it's their birthday, but the entire event and understanding of it are rooted deeply in spiritual knowledge. So the spiritual master, who is a fully liberated soul, isn't like us trying to come again to love of God. They are already in the spiritual world. So we don't say the day that they were born or the day that they die. We say their appearance day, when they appeared unto the world, into our vision, and when they disappeared, when they left from our vision in this world. And it might sound odd, materially speaking, to celebrate someone's death, right? But for devotees, it's another cause of celebration, because we know the destination of the spiritual master, of the pure devotee of God, of any saintly person. They're not going to be subjected mandatorily to repeated birth and death and continuous suffering. They will be with God, eternal life full of bliss and knowledge. So we too, in the religion of love, we celebrate September 3rd, and at our centers around the world, we do celebrate. We cook lots of food and offer it and distribute it, and we have big programs, and it's kind of like our own, Christmas Day, Christmas, Thanksgiving. It's our special day. And it says here there was devotional dance and music, reading from the holy books, religion of love. It's a special day of observance for spiritual life and celebrating spiritual life. And it says, from before dawn, Gauri. Now we're hearing the name of another disciple we haven't heard yet. We've heard Rajak a lot. Now we heard the name Gauri. Gauri, my elder god sister, she was one of the first batch of disciples initiated from Mother Atasha, and the most amazing cook. Oof. Gauri is a wonderful cook and a great devotee. I've had a lot of adventures preaching across India and Bangladesh with Gauri. And so they cooked a wonderful feast, and they give you a little idea of all the foods, and this is not even an exaggeration at all. In fact, this is the tip of the iceberg. There will be plenty more, actually. Sumptuous feast, bunch of different types of soups, salads, breads, muffins, pastries, shell stuffed with spiced vegetables. That's probably samosas. myriad of greens heat up rice and beans and all sorts of yummy stuff, yogurts with cucumber, lentil stew, some dal, bunch of cooked veggies and casseroles, so many wonderful, delicious things, all made without meat, fish, or eggs. And it's quite true that I used to be a meat eater, before I came to spiritual life. Even a little before that, I gave it up. And I've tasted a lot of meats. I've had the big Angus steaks. I've had escargot. I've had lobster. I've eaten all these special things, quote unquote, that are hankered for people's taste buds. But I've never had anything as delicious as the food I've had post-vegetarian and coming to spiritual life. Nothing comes close. And I mean that. I'm not even saying that, being jaded, be like, oh, this is better. No, it really is better. If you've tasted what I've tasted, you would agree. Oh my gosh, especially Gauri's cooking. Wow. And the variety of foods you can make vegetarian. In the beginning, many become vegetarian. They don't know what they're going to eat. They don't have knowledge of what to cook. That's just a lack of knowledge and experience. But oh my gosh, the scraps of whatever veggies they pull together, and in Bangladesh, oof, they whip it up so yummy. And amid murmurs of delight and delicious, one guest, a woman of wealth with emerald clips in her auburn hair, exclaimed, and this is my experience too, but not as fancy as her, I've eaten in the finest restaurants around the world and have my own kitchens the best of cooks, yet never have I tasted such wonderful food. It's like love, she says. Love is the secret ingredient, says a disciple. And it is, actually. That's why it's so delicious. And it's not just because it's vegetarian. No. There is a special quality to this soul food that we're talking about. In the East, they have a word called prasad. And prasad is sanctified food that you would get from a temple, or as we're about to hear, how it's been offered to the Lord in love. And it's very holy. And to accept prasad is quite the sacrament. It's very special to get prasad and eat such sanctified food, because it's so purifying. But prasad doesn't mean holy food. Actually, prasad means the mercy of God. And, oh, am I disconnecting? Am I okay? You guys can still hear me? Me, Yeti, can you guys still hear me? I think I had some connection issues, possibly.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good, thanks. Appreciate it.
Yes, we can.
Copy that. All right. So prasad actually means the mercy of God. And it's God's mercy because it's purifying us. It's liberating us of suffering and bringing us more to love. And how is prasad made, or how is soul food made? Here is the answer. The food is called the mercy of God. It is prepared in silence with only the holy names of God filling the minds of the cooks. Why in silence? The reason why is because the food isn't made for our pleasure. It's made for God's pleasure, as if God is the guest of honor that you are cooking for. And of course, in knowledge, we know that everything belongs to God. And we, as it says in the Religion Love book, the perfection of life is to use everything in the service of God, in the service of good. So the devotees are just offering back unto God what is His, but in the nicest way possible and with the utmost standards of cleanliness. So the devotees do not speak when they're cooking, lest any spit or vapor come from their mouth and contaminate the food. Ultra hygienic. I guess you could maybe chant if you wore a mask, so that's a workaround. You could chant out loud, but they're chanting out loud, and that chanting, focusing on the holy names, staying in devotional service while preparing the food, also has a potent effect on the food itself, because Mother Atasha taught us that anytime you use fire, your consciousness goes into what you're doing, what you're creating. Fire is like a via medium. And if you've ever eaten food from like some fast food restaurant or some greasy diner, and you see the cooks, they're just getting through the day. They don't really care about their job. They're maybe even miserable. That food will probably give you acid indigestion and give you some issues, and probably you feel very low energy, right? Versus food cooked by some relative with so much great love. Or even in a fancy, Michelin star restaurant where the cooks, they love their craft. They're very passionate about what they do. They put their focus and energy into it. They put their love into it. And the food is so wonderful. The consciousness of the cook goes into the food. And there's no greater energy to put into that food than to chant the holy names. So it's prepared with great love for the pleasure of God and offered to God. And the offering, in the East there are specific prayers one could say, it could be the offering, Bog Arti, for example. But just like chanting, really there's no hard and fast rules. What matters is the love in the offering. And there's a quote from Bhagavad Gita. This is 9:26. Patram puspang phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhakti upahitam asnani prayatatmanaha. If one offers me with love and devotion, a leaf, a flower, fruit, water, I will accept it. Key word here is offers with love and devotion. And as described, there's no meat, fish, egg in there. It's all vegetarian. If you offered vegetarian food with love and devotion to the Lord accepts the love in the offering. Of course, God doesn't need the food. God is God. He doesn't need it. He ain't hungry. He's not going to starve if we don't feed him. It's not like that. But he loves our love. That's what he wants from us. God wants our love. And he accepts the love that's in the offering, and that is how the food becomes blessed, becomes sanctified. And when you eat food that has been offered to the Lord in love, this soul food, it actually does purify your heart and mind and karmic reactions. It does. Just like chanting the holy names purifies us, eating holy food purifies us. Of course, chanting's probably more powerful, but don't ever underestimate the potency of real soul food or prasad. Oof. Because it's actually not food anymore. It's not material. It's spiritual now. It has become spiritualized in the offering of love and devotion in service to God. You are basically eating spiritual food now. Of course, it looks and feels and tastes like regular food, of course, but there's a potency that cannot be perceived by the material senses. So, one who regularly can partake of food such as this, their hearts become purified, their minds sanctified. And I recommend everyone to do this. Anytime you have vegetarian food, even just a glass of water even, really, even offering a flower. When you offer, I might add, you never taste the food before you offer it. Never. The first taste goes to God. So no tasting the soup if it needs salt. No. It's a little act of faith here. You can always add salt later. And so you want God to be the first one to taste, the first one to enjoy. Yeah. And then we accept what we call the remnants of God. This is his leftovers, basically. God's remnants. That's what we accept. And he usually leaves everything for us to eat. Usually. There's some interesting cases which are quite beautiful and full of love. Some scriptures, but I won't get into those. And with flowers, if you offer a flower to the Lord in love, same thing, with love and devotion, offer it to God, chant his holy names. And like I said, no hard and fast rules, just with love and devotion. You can say some prayers, you can chant the holy names. Easiest thing you could possibly do is maybe chant some holy names of God and said, "Oh Lord, please accept this food. Hope you enjoy." Amen. Very simple. And you can even offer the food to the picture of a spiritual master, even a bona fide spiritual master, like Mother Ratasha, like a Bhaktivedanta Swami, or even Jesus. For example, Mother Ratasha said the spiritual master passes it up the sampradaya, the disciplic succession, up to God. They pass it up the totem pole for you. So it works the same way. You can even offer it to a holy book, scriptures, because the message of God is not different from God. So these are some things you can do to offer with love and devotion. But what matters is not the words or the way and the style, it's the heart. Like the sincerity, you actually offer it in love. Just as if any one of you came to dinner at at our place. Well, we don't have a place, but we could prepare for you. We would offer you nice food. We wouldn't eat it first. Well, first we'd offer to God, but then we'd offer to you as our honored guests. And you take first. Just like any good etiquette, good household, you feed your guests first. So God is always the guest of honor in the house of devotees. Then another guest asks, "I see all are vegetarian, the religion of love. What's the merit of this in a holy life?" And Hassan Ali, yes, that's me. I'm in the book too. Answered, "In the religion of love, we do not only speak of love, but live love." So not just, as we say on the streets, not just talk the talk, but walk the walk. So we live love, acting with mercy, kindness, and compassion, that we might cause no unnecessary suffering. This is one of our regulative principles, not to cause any unnecessary suffering. Keyword unnecessary. I first asked Mother Ratasha many, many years ago, first class I attended, if eating meat was bad, and she flipped it around and said, it's not about bad or good, it's about whether or not it's beneficial for your goal. And if your goal is spiritual realization, you're depending on the mercy of God, then it would behoove you, would it not, to also be merciful? And the unnecessary part is that if there's ample foods available in the marketplace and the stores, we can be fed sumptuously, deliciously, nutritiously, without having to cause suffering to any creature unnecessarily, then that would be the more loving act. But to go for those chicken nuggets, to go for that, that burger or whatever, the steak, even though you don't need it, and be part of the suffering of other living creatures, it hardens our heart. It's not an act of love, and it makes us hard-hearted, really. And it makes it more difficult to hear the message of God. Now, of course, not every saint in history, every prophet was vegetarian, of course not. No. For example, Saint Teresa of Avila, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, they were great spiritual personalities, and they ate meat. But they were great saints in their time. Now it isn't necessary at all in this society to eat meat for survival. And again, survival, that's what's necessary. We have to survive, keep body and soul together. If I was in an emergency situation, I use the example of being on a life raft in the ocean, I would catch a fish, I'd kill it, I'd eat it. I'd kill a sea turtle and eat it, because I have to survive. If there was nothing else to eat, I'm going to die. So it's kind of a, worst case scenario kind of a thing. But when it's not necessary, we don't want to cause any suffering. And again, these regulative principles. So I mentioned vegetarianism, not cause necessary suffering. The other religious, sub-religious principles, remember, sub-religious, not engaging in intoxication, not gambling, not engaging in illicit sex or sex outside of wedlock. These are actually material things. Things about diet, lifestyle, things like that. And they're meant to bring you from animal to human level of consciousness. Because only on the human level can we understand the spiritual. And these austerities, they're usually very feared because people think you have to give something up. But in the religion of love, what we give up is illusion. People may fear these 4 regulated principles, that you have to give up meat, drinking, smoking, whatever. But what we give up is the illusion that these things are beneficial, that they're good in the long run. The illusion is backed up by a huge advertising campaign, mind you. My gosh. Mother Tasha said, kids would watch these commercials of like McDonald's, and there'd be a hamburger patty, and it would have, flower petals around it, like it was a sunflower, and the kids think, oh, hamburger is a flower, We're totally disassociated with the actual cruelty that goes on in the actual production of meat on a table. But we don't ask anyone to give up anything that is helpful, mind you, but to get someone to give up something harmful, we must first break the illusion one has of these things. And not just the 4 regulated principles, but illusions to anything that is harmful. Because the core of being a devotee of God is love. There are 3 levels of consciousness: animal, human, and divine. But in order to go to divine consciousness, spiritual consciousness, God consciousness, we first have to come to the human platform, be a first-class gentleman and lady. Most of us are operating on the animal platform of consciousness: eat, sleep, mate, defend. The scriptures, the Vedic scriptures, they liken us to 2-legged animals, really. And here's some examples of some of that cruelty. And this is just a little, tip of the iceberg. We're not trying to be like one of those, it's not trying to be like one of those documentaries that show all the cruelty. And I know some people who watch these videos and they're like, oh my gosh. And like, oh, it's shocking. They become vegetarian or vegan by watching these documentaries that showcase the abject cruelty that animals suffer. And some examples of fish are being clubbed and gutted while they're still struggling to live, and chickens in a farm, their face is cut off by these debeaking hot knife machines, or a cow hung upside down and throat slit and skinned alive. And there's so much more. Oh my gosh, I don't want to get into it, of course, and you guys don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. You guys can find videos of it if you want to just, or just take your word for it. It's bad. It's really bad, the slaughterhouses. Oof. And the people who work in such slaughterhouses, actually, their hearts are so hardened, and they live quite miserable lives, actually. If you know about people who work in slaughterhouses. I think there was one documentary that got into that too, and how it really messes with people's minds and heart. That just that abject cruelty that they're just doing every single day. My goodness, what it does to us. And she says, one lady says, it's interesting, in my religion we await the Messiah, and a tradition tells that in the time of the Messiah all will be vegetarian. So this is quotes from the Old Testament, and I want to read something for you. I grabbed a few quotes. And one thing that's important to know, like in Genesis 1:29 through 1:30, actually Genesis 1:30, it says that and to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is a living soul, I have given every green herb and for food. So even in the Old Testament, and this is the JPS 1917 authoritative Jewish translation of the Old Testament English, is recognizing that there is a spirit soul in every living thing. And we all feel, we all hurt. So do animals, so do plants. Of course, the consciousness in the plants is much lower, but they've already scientifically proven that plants do suffer and do hurt if you cut them. And this prophecy of the Messiah is referring to the book of Isaiah. And Isaiah, book 11, 6 through 9 passages you can look up if you want, or I'll just read a shorter Isaiah 65:25. The wolf and the lamb shall feed together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox, and dust shall be the serpent's food. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, saith the Lord. And this is actually a little bit of a glimpse of what the spiritual world is like. There is no killing, there's no meat, fish, egg people are eating in the spiritual world. There's no death, so you can't kill something and eat its flesh. No. Everyone's eternal. And likewise, there's no birth, so there's no eggs, no embryos creating new life. Everyone's eternally existing in the spiritual world. So there is no meat, fish, eggs eaten in God's kingdom. So devotees of God are basically just acting like their real selves. The diet of spiritual holy life, the diet of God and of the spiritual world, actually. Oh, I know I'm going over time here. My apologies. Well, let me just finish this real fast. And our actions always have effects, cause and effect, and everything we do and are affects those around us. Remember the story of the fool boring a hole in the boat? And I was like, what are you doing? You're going to drown us all. He says, what's it your business? I'm making a hole under my own seat. We don't realize the effect our actions have on such wider ramifications affecting other people and plants and animals, the earth. I mean, just on a simple scale of just one person being a vegetarian, my goodness, how much less pollution you cause to the world, how much less water is wasted. I mean, right here, these are actual statistics. If all the soybeans and grains fed to livestock in just one country, America, if just all that soybean, all the grains, all the food that's given to cattle and game, not game, then 1.3 billion people you could feed. My goodness. It's incredible, the amount of food that is put towards just raising animals to be slaughtered. And not only that, land. The land, the greatest deforester of the Amazon rainforest, the lungs of our planet producing oxygen for us to breathe, is McDonald's. And at an alarming rate, they are clear-cutting Amazon forests to make room to grow soybeans and grasslands for cattle to be killed to make hamburgers. Really. My goodness. So we're basically killing our planet's oxygen-producing forests so that we can have, steak. It's quite unnecessary, isn't it? Soil erosion, air pollution. Yeah, oh my gosh. In the southern United States, I know that the air pollution caused by these pig farms, oh my gosh, the methane gas that's produced, oh, it is atrocious. Not only the smell, but how it raises the greenhouse gases in our atmosphere. So, yeah, look at this. The amount of land, food, and water that produces only 1 pound of beef, that same amount of energy and resources could feed 20 different vegetarians in the same, for 20 meals, 20 vegetarian meals versus 1 meal with a steak. Can you believe that? So it's just giving you a greater picture that how our actions have wider effects than we think. And when we act in love, we act in kindness, mercy, compassion, how we can lessen the collective suffering that takes place in this world of other people, of the planet, of all the plants and animals. And it's also the healthiest, so, touching all the bases. It's the healthiest. The medical profession's now coming around to understanding that a well-balanced vegetarian diet is by far the healthiest. So, and that's talking about a lacto-vegetarian diet. Basically a vegan diet, but you add dairy to the mix. But not meat, fish, eggs. And that's because dairy, cow cow milk has all essential amino acids. It's all the protein you could possibly need. It's basically animal protein. Just like meat is an animal protein, but it's blood that's of the cow been turned into a food source. And the cow produces more milk than the calf actually can eat. It's the only animal, I think, that we know of that produces abundance of milk. And it's the most nutritious, right? And also the most assimilable. Do you know about 99% of the protein of milk can actually be assimilated and used by the muscles in your body? That's a lot. I think eggs is something like 95%, it's less. Fish maybe 90%. I think poultry, things like that, are less than that, like in the high 80s. I think red meats maybe like 80 to 70%. No, 80%, and then I think pork is 70% of that protein your body actually uses. The rest just gets, expelled as nitrogenous waste through your body. So you actually get more protein from milk products, cheese, yogurts, dairy, than you do from eating meat and eggs. You actually get more out of it. So do the math. If let's say 80% of beef is absorbed versus 100% of milk, so if you have 10 grams of milk protein, that's 10 grams your body actually absorbed and used. Whereas 10 grams of beef, that's only 8 grams that's used, for example. So it's a healthy diet. Very healthy. And if you're vegan, you got to know to combine your foods properly to get you all your essential amino acids. That's important. Just being vegan doesn't mean you're healthy. You have to have some knowledge of how to combine your foods. It says well-balanced vegetarian diet. Eat the rainbow, all the varieties of foods and colors. It's actually the nutrients, the vitamins and minerals that give fruits and vegetables their different colors. Variety of colors means varieties of nutrients. And of course, eating your whole grains, your legumes and beans, your seeds and nuts, mix it up a bit, and it makes things more tasty. Of course, you eat more things, variety. And if you're vegan, you have to combine certain foods to get a complete protein. For example, grains by itself are not a complete protein, neither is legumes, beans. They're not a complete protein, but when you combine them, rice and beans, then you get a complete amino acid complex, and you're not missing anything in your diet. And it's a myth that you have to get so much protein in your diet. No, what you need to get is all your amino acids. So, where do you get your protein? You eat enough protein. Most people eat too much protein, to be honest. Unless you're some, bodybuilder, heavy weightlifter. Most of us, we eat way more than we actually need. It just gets, lack of a better word, just gets pooped out. And then this last little quib, this lady wants to be a vegetarian, and the disciple messes with her, and he's like, so if 3 polar bears in the ice, one decides to jump in the water, how many polar bears are left? She says 2. No. Just deciding to do something isn't the same as actually doing it. So he was teasing her, basically, if you say you're going to do something, stick to your word, basically. So anyways, I went way over time. My apologies. There wasn't enough of soul food to cram into 3 classes, so I tried to divide it into 2 classes. So it was a lot to cover. My apologies. Let me just stop here. Oof, I went so far over. Okay. Anyone have any questions so far about the book Soul Food? And I know it's kind of like a big vegetarianism, but we'll discuss more of that in the next class. You'll see that we're not pushing vegetarianism, we're pushing love, or teaching love, giving the teachings and the merit of it for a holy life. And this is, mind you, nothing that we preach to people. I don't go around the street, you should be a vegetarian. Why aren't you a vegetarian? No, there's nothing we ever do. Not at all. Never. But if it comes up in conversation, I'll talk about it, I guess. But, there's a joke in the States. How do you know someone's a vegan? You know how they know? They'll tell you. Anyways. You guys have any questions, perchance?
this might be a little bit petty,
Okay.
but you know, in certain parts of the world, many years ago, I'm not talking about now, where we've got trucks and things and airplanes and ships delivering stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but there are parts of the world where growing things was not possible, and you know, they had to rely on eating pork. I think they might have had cow here and there, but the Inuits probably wouldn't have.
No.
They were basically sustained on fishing.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, how would they be treated? These people.
Well, there's always higher and higher levels of love that we can act out of. And we do the best we can with the circumstances that we got. Now, you're right, someone like the Inuits, he's talking about Eskimos who live far up north and it's where it's snow all
Don't
year
be
round.
racist.
Yeah, they can't really grow food over there.
Eskimo's not the right word for them.
Oh, is it not?
So
Okay.
I've been told.
Oh, well, for the general audience watching who might not be familiar with the term Inuit, apologies. So anyways, yeah, they eat primarily a fish diet, and the only vegetables they eat are maybe some seaweeds, things like that. And vitamin C is actually a big trouble for them. They don't get much, fruit at all. So to get vitamin C, they only have one source, and that's the skin of a narwhal. A narwhal is a type of whale with a long unicorn-like protrusion. It's actually a tooth, but it's a big spirally horn. It looks like unicorns of the sea. And apparently the skin of a narwhal is high in vitamin C. Strange. And if they don't catch a narwhal, they don't have any vitamin C throughout the year, and they'll get scurvy. So where they live, yes, it's necessary for them to kill and hunt to survive. It's necessary for their situation, their circumstances. Of course, if it was me, now that we have planes and trucks and ships that can travel, I would just, move somewhere a lot warmer. But, that's what they know, that's their culture, etc. And you're right, in different times, of course, we didn't have all the knowledge we have now, the resources we have now, of course not. It's been a gradual evolution of consciousness across the world throughout time. And we're actually going to go into that next week about these things. So I don't want to say too much now because we're going to really go into it next Saturday with the second half of the Soul Food book and more quotes from different scriptures. It's going to be fun. But yeah, the point is we want to do the most good, act in the most love that we can. As best we can. What is the highest act of love that I can practically do? That's what a devotee is always thinking. How can I do the most good? How can I be the most good? How can I affect the most good around me? And what's best for me might not be best for another person, or their best might be different from this person's best. Everyone's best is different. And we don't judge or condemn anybody that they are doing lesser or worse than another. No. That itself is not love, that judgment, that condemning. We talked last week about the militant vegans, right? Militant vegans? The militant vegans. How they judge, how they condemn. So even though they have, you can say, the least harmful diet, that doesn't mean that they're good people. Not at all. A diet doesn't make you any special or holy. Hitler was a vegetarian. So there you go. Diet is so what? Who cares? But what's the point? Why you're doing it? What's the consciousness behind it? That's the love and devotion. The consciousness behind everything we do. Why we do the things we do. That's really what determines the results, the effects of our work, of our actions, our decisions in life. And you might say also, and this is something we've talked about before, when you pluck a carrot out of the ground, a carrot is a living plant, and you chop it up and cook it, you're killing the carrot. That is true. Even vegetarians are killing. But again, we do the best we can. Yes, the plants are much lower consciousness, and we're given permission to do so because these types of foods are accepted to be offered to God. As it says, a leaf, a flower, fruit, water, etc. It says in Bhagavad Gita. And it says in the Old Testament, I'll just finish that quote from Genesis, just because I said Genesis 1:30. Also, Genesis 1:29 says, "And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb yielding seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be food." So basically, Genesis outlines for us a vegetarian diet. So we're given permission to eat vegetarian stuff. And even though, yes, plants are killed in the process, we're given permission to do so because otherwise we're going to die. And there are actually higher levels in vegetarianism too. There are higher levels. Vegetarianism isn't like the ultimate diet. No, I mean, gosh, crazy yogis, they can sustain themselves off air, off sunlight. My gosh, if you really go far out. But that's way too crazy, difficult to try to achieve that. It's not necessary either. Nor is it delicious. Air, I'm sure, don't taste as good as Gauri's cooking. Let me tell you.
Make you hungry.
And also, what attracts us to meat is the taste. And honestly, taste and texture. And you can imitate taste and texture by how you cook and prepare vegetarian foods. It's incredible, And you can, it's how we season it. I mean, you don't just take a slab of meat and just boil it and just eat that. It's gross, honestly. Even when I used to eat meat, that's gross, right? You got to season it. You got to cook it nicely, right? It's the same with vegetarian stuff. You cook it nicely, you season it nicely, and it's delicious. And you could put the same seasonings and cooking process you do for meats, for plant-based stuff, vegetarian stuff, and it is delicious. It's exactly like the meat stuff, but even tastier, in my opinion. My goodness. Yeah, oh my gosh. And the texture you can get from, we were just watching this video earlier today. You can just take a big bag of bread flour and the way they make a dough ball and then soak it and then knead it in the water and release all the starches. And then you get all the gluten, the protein from the wheat, and they make these, and they twist it around, make knots with this stretchy, doughy, glutinous, whatever. They eventually call it seitan, not Satan, seitan. And the way they season it and cook it, oh my gosh, it's so chewy. The texture is very meaty-like, and when you season it with all this, what?
We made one.
Yeah, we made it once. Yeah, we got to perfect that. We got to really do. But yeah, it is absolutely meaty and delicious. And if you season it right, you can barbecue it too. Oh my gosh! And the things they do with mushrooms, oof! I mean, KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken. Yes, I admit you drive past it, smells nice. Those 21 herbs and spices, right? But I've seen the same thing, the same type of batter and seasoning done with like oyster mushrooms and how it pulls apart the texture. Oh my gosh. So much more tastier. So delicious and healthy too. Well, maybe not fried stuff, but in moderation.
Once a while.
Yeah. So, anywho, so it's just showing that this book, Soul Food, that you can live a wonderful life and not miss out on anything. And people ask me, do you miss meat? Well, not you meat, and I do miss you when we're gone. But do I miss eating meat? No, I don't. Not at all. And I didn't even miss it even when I first became vegetarian. Not at all. I don't, and I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. I really don't. The only thing I'm missing out on is heart disease and colon cancer. Which vegetarians do not get, mind you. I mean, if it wasn't a hint God and the material nature was telling us that when you eat too much meat, you get heart disease. It's not good for your heart. Remember the hard-hearted? Both, ethically and metaphysically speaking, and physically for your body. Now, vegetarians don't get heart disease. And we don't get all the colon cancers and butt cancers and things like that. No. Well, someone might. I don't know. It's health stuff. I don't know. But anyways, yeah, you do the best you can. The Inuits, cavemen from prehistoric eras. I mean, they did the best for their times. But now we don't live in those times. We have far more knowledge now. We have far more resources now. So really, it's not a matter of survival anymore. It's a matter of your conscious decisions and what's in your mind, and what do you want to create for yourself, and what effect do you want to have in this world. Do we choose in love, kindness, compassion, or cruelty and killing? I know I mentioned the advertising campaign. The way society is designed, we're very much far removed from the actual killing and cruelty of the animals. We just walk down the grocery store and a little package of meat there. Oh, it's on sale, whatever. There's so much disassociation with the actual amount of cruelty and suffering that actually went into that. Because people don't want to see it. They don't want to know. They'd rather be in, quote unquote, blissful ignorance, right? Well, ignorance is not bliss. Not at all. Ignorance is suffering. And may lie to ourselves, but the effects will still be the same. Anyway, anyone have any other comment or question, perchance? You're good?
No, I just you mentioned about Gauri's food made me so hungry.
Yeah, my wife has tasted some of the cooking from my god sisters in Bangladesh, and she got really hungry thinking about that. Oof, I'm telling you.
No restaurant can make those food.
No restaurant could. And because of the love.
Mm-hmm.
My wife and I, we don't eat out much. We don't. And one reason is frugality, economics. It's cheaper, it's save money by cooking ourselves and eating out. But actually, just as strong of a reason is because the food we make at home and offer to God is so much tastier. I mean, not only could I make food with much cheaper than I would buy it at a restaurant, but it's so much more delicious making it ourselves. Then again, the consciousness of those cooking, the quality of that process. And I mean, every now and then we do eat out. We do grab a pizza when we're on the road. Yeah, we don't have an oven, so we can't make pizza. But before we eat that pizza, we definitely offer it to God and to Mother Atasha, who also enjoyed pizza. So we offer the pizza to Mother Atasha too. Offer to her picture and also chant the holy names. And if you forget to offer the food, at least having prayerful and giving thanks. Thanking the Lord for the food you ate. That is also good. But if you can prepare and offer the food to God in love, and then pray and be thankful and eat it, you get the most benefit, the most purification. And you guys don't have any more questions? I can just end on a little quick story then. Meat, Yeti, you guys good? My wife's salivating, thinking of vegetarian food.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah, good.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you a story about A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, also known as Srila Prabhupada, the founder of ISKCON, and who made the name of God, Hare Krishna, a household name around the world. He was a penniless sannyasi, and he tried his best to fulfill the instructions of his spiritual master to preach the message of God in English to the West, particularly the Vedic teachings. that he was raised up in, and he ended up in the late 60s in New York City, crest of the hippie revolution, and he lived in the Lower East Side because he couldn't afford anything else, and he's surrounded by poverty and corruption and sin galore. Oh my gosh, just to get to the room of this little place that people helped him rent out, he would step over passed out drunken people. Some of them have expired and died even. It was crazy. And even his house, or not his house, but his little apartment got broken into, and his little typewriter that he was typing manuscripts, translations of scriptures, was stolen from him. I mean, the poor guy, things were not going good. But he had complete faith in God and his spiritual master, and just did what he could to preach. And, as the Prophet Muhammad said, speak to the level of the listener. So these crazy hippie people and, people in America at the time, they couldn't understand much the deep knowledge that he gave, but he did the best he could. It's mainly he just chanted the holy names, did kirtan, and he gave prashad, soul food. And even though he had very little resources, people would pitch in a potato here, a bag of flour there, a little butter here. That man, that great holy saint, for what I heard, could cook like no other. And he would make the most wonderful feasts for God. And then he would distribute the food to all the hippies, and he would really make them eat. He'd give them seconds, thirds. He was like that grandma who's just shoving more food. Eat. And it wasn't just out of, I'm happy they're eating, but because he knew that if the more they would eat of this holy food, they would be purified. And sure enough, that really was his secret weapon. The prashad he made that was so delicious, it actually did purify people enough that they were able to finally grasp some of the teachings. Their hearts were opened enough, cleansed enough, that they could actually understand the transcendental message that he was there to give. So never underestimate the power of soul food, of prasadam. It's very, very, very powerful. And it's so easy for us to do, honestly. We never eat anything, my wife and I, unless it's first offered in love to God. And for one, that's out of devotion, because God is always first in our life, but also for our own self-purification. So I highly recommend anyone, even if you're not vegetarian, that's fine. Whatever level you're at, but not everything you eat's with meat in it. I mean, gosh, you make French fries, make a bowl of oatmeal in the morning. I mean, whatever, toast, even some fruit, even, like I said, a glass of water. Just before you take it, offer it in love to God. Just try it, and you'll be surprised that God is so merciful. He will accept the love and the offering. And of course, there's higher and lower levels. Maybe you might not be able to make a wonderful feast like Gauri does, or put so much attention and purity and of chanting into the preparation like Srila Prabhupada. But you do the best you can at your level. God knows your heart. He hears your intention. And he wants your love. Oh gosh, God wants our love so much. He wants us to be in love. Nothing but love. And he will help us. And he'll accept the offering you give to him in love. So try it out, guys. And then you'll be surprised. Actually, the food does actually get tastier when it's offered in love. It really does. It does take on this special quality. And I'm not kidding. It really does. And I know Ramia's going to say a friend of hers, and one of her friends, she told her about how to make soul food and whatnot and offer it. And for her family, they're meat eaters, but sometimes, special dishes, their culture, is vegetarian naturally. And she would chant while she prepared it, and she offered it to God. And then her family, who'd eaten this same recipe many, many times, now they're like, oh, that's so good. You really outdid yourself today. Oh, it's so delicious today. And they had no idea, but it was because she offered it to God. So there's proof right there. The exact same dish, the exact same recipe, cooked in love to a blind test study of her family who didn't know what she was doing, and they said it was the most delicious she's ever cooked. Oh, and there's the time. Remember, the secret ingredient is love. All right. All glories to Mother Atansha, all glories to religion of love, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to our Supreme Lord. Jai.